Hello, and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I am your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Mike Klotthor, who is the president of the Precast Forte Group. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the type of business that you're in?
Yeah, the Precast Forte Group is a product licensing company. I kind of got my start in engineering. So I worked as a consulting engineer for a couple Minnesota-based consulting engineering firms prior to joining what was then Recon Wall Systems. It's Recon Wall Systems is a company that had a licensed retaining wall product. So all of the products that we license are in the precast concrete space. In 2021, we had kind of hit maybe a little bit of a period of slower growth, and so it was myself, and one other person that was at the company. There had been a couple of people that had left. I was named president of the company at that point, and it was kind of tasked to me to find a new opportunity for growth and how could we really move this company forward. And excuse me, it was really taking a look at, what it was that we did well, and it was product licensing. At that time, we had two separate licensed products, but it was really saying, I think, taking a step back and really deciding, like, I think what we're really good at is product licensing versus simply just retaining walls or the like. And so that was what started that journey towards becoming the Precast Forte Group. That was actually launched last year as a parent company to our licensed product brands, really kind of affording us the luxury to continue to grow and develop our licensing portfolio and some of the services that we offer.
Great. I know you mentioned that you were part owner of the business now. And when you started with the company, was that kind of always your goal, or did that goal just kind of come about as you gained more and more experience with the company?
That was never my original intention. Like I said, I have a background in engineering, and I was brought in as the director of engineering. It was never really my long-term plan to become, president of the company or part owner in the company. It was really, just my abilities to kind of continue to see maybe a different kind of vision or path forward for us, that the board and the balance of the ownership group was willing to take kind of a look at me and say, I think that there might be an opportunity for you to kind of implement the plan that you had. But no, it was never really my initial goal, but it's kind of where I am today.
Oh, cool. Well, talk about how that transition happened, and what did you do to kind of prepare yourself for the presidency role?
Um, it was it was a little bit of a learning by trial by fire. I'll be honest, I hadn't run a company before. I was afforded a little bit of the luxury of obviously an existing business, Recon Wall Systems. Obviously now, as I mentioned, part of the Precast Forte Group, started in 2000, so it was a very well-established business. So I had obviously the prior momentum that had been generated by the past president of the company, but also, so it was still, though, a lot of learning. I operations wasn't necessarily something that I had a strong background in. Finance, stuff like that was all things that I just had to kind of learn. But again, my background in engineering helped me. One of the biggest things about engineering is continuing to learn and understanding how to learn. So it was really just roll up your sleeves and figure it out. And that was really what the board told me when I initially started is, I was honest with them and said, I'm not 100% sure what it is that I'm doing, and their response was, you'll figure it out. So
That's cool. So you had obviously a very supportive board
yes.
with your group. That's good. You mentioned having a slightly different vision for the organization, and can you say a little bit more about what that vision has become?
Yeah, so when the company first started, the entire company was based around this single product, which is a retaining wall system. And we were having that product made and manufactured here in Minnesota and selling direct into the market. And then we started working our way into licensing that product throughout the rest of the United States, the North America, on into Europe. And over the course of probably 18, 19 years, that was really our sole focus, was this one product, and really becoming an expert in that product. And again, it was really it got to about that 20-year mark into our business, and it was what I realized is that although we knew a lot about retaining walls, what we had really developed over the past 20 years was an in-depth knowledge and understanding of how to license products. And so it was really that pivot, that switch from simply being more a retaining wall company to being a product licensing company that afforded us a new trajectory for growth. And so again, I think it was really that ability to kind of step back and say, what are we good at? What are we truly good at? And what can we be the best at? And although we, do understand retaining walls very well, it's still our core business in terms of our product lines. But ultimately, it's that it's that differentiator of being a product licensing company, which is, I got a little bit more white space, a little bit more freedom to operate. So
Cool. Cool. Was there kind of a specific spark or session that you guys had where you kind of came up with this new direction?
Well, in 2018, we launched our second licensed product line, which was a universal light pole based system. It's very much different from retaining walls. Really, the only thing that the two really have in common is the fact that they're made out of precast concrete. Again, that was starting to go well, but it was really seeing this opportunity that we could kind of rinse and repeat. We could bring on new products. We could kind of develop the same program. We could, take that product, roll it out, license it, kind of grow the business and continue to just, adapt new products into our lineup to continue to grow the overall business. And it wasn't necessarily a single, planning session or anything. It was really kind of a little bit of an aha moment from my perspective. So
That's great. Cool. So I'm going to change the subject just a little bit here and ask you about, you stepped into the role as president. You mentioned some of it was learning on the go
mhm.
and trial by fire. What was kind of that work-life balance like when you stepped into that role? And was it any different than from your prior role?
Yeah, it was definitely different. There's obviously a lot more responsibility. As I mentioned, when I was named president of the company, there was myself and one other person. We now have, so we had two full-time employees, myself included. We now have 10 full-time employees, and so there's obviously that feeling of responsibility towards your employees and making sure that the business is growing and is profitable, so that everybody can continue to have have a position at the company. But as far as work-life balance, I think the biggest thing that I, understood up front and continue to take into practice now is to just be intentional. Saying I am going to shut it down at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I am going to go to kids soccer games and stuff like that. I am going to take some time in the morning to read and just be with my thoughts, or I am going to plan vacations with my family. So I think it's really just being intentional and making sure to plan that time in, because otherwise it really can kind of get away from you, and it's very easy to become kind of consumed by the role and consumed by the amount of stuff that needs to be done all the time.
Yeah, there's always plenty to do, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And if you're not intentional about it, you're going to miss out on some of the important things that you also want to do and some of the reasons why you're doing what you do. So that's good to
Yeah.
know. So let's talk a little bit about future. Could you offer us maybe a little glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for your business? You mentioned you've seen some pretty decent sized growth. From 2 to 10 employees is pretty significant. But what's the future hold? What are some of those goals out there?
Yeah, so we We have a couple other products that we are looking to bring kind of into our portfolio. A couple of them are currently under development. Hopefully, either later this year or early next, we'll have some of those launched. And it's, like I said, continuing to do the same thing. That and as far as finding new products, and it's always interesting. People ask like, what's next? And I don't necessarily always know what's next. And a lot of that just comes from continuing to listen and hear what people's problems and their struggles are. And so, that's really where those good ideas come from. Isn't sitting down and just saying, look, I'm going to come up with a great idea. It's listening to other people around you and finding out what are their challenges, what are their struggles, and then really developing solutions based towards those. So we do have a couple products that we're looking to launch, and maybe some additional service opportunities, for our customers to continue to kind of build out our portfolio of product lines.
Do you have a formalized process at all for kind of gathering that voice of the customer as you're talking about, or are there certain customers that you know are a little bit more forward thinking than others? I'm just kind of curious how that all works.
We do some very specific voice of the customer stuff, interviews. We utilize some third-party consultants to help us with that service. I think it's good to understand how people feel about you, how they feel about your business, get that constant feedback, so that you can, grow and improve. But as far as the products itself, a lot of that is just simply talking to, people that are kind of boots on the ground, contractors that are installing other systems, contractors that are working in the field. What challenges are they running into? Industry groups. There's a National Precast Concrete Association, which is a good industry group that we participate in, and good ideas come out of there. You just overhear conversations, and then simply just having that openness, that open mind, and ability to kind of adapt and change, so that you can, when you hear a problem, you're like, I think I might be able to figure out a solution to that. So.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to ask you just kind of a unique question I tend to ask folks. If you could wave a magic wand, right, and you could change one thing about your business, what would that be?
I think, ultimately it would probably, I wish things could happen a little bit faster. We're a small company, and we're agile and nimble, and and we're growing and all of the rest. But I think, when you have good ideas and you see them, kind of coming to fruition, you always wish that it could go a little bit faster. You wish things could just get done. Almost, if I had a magic wand, it would be a magic wand that could just kind of, make things happen quicker. Because it's exciting. It's exciting to be part of that change process and see all of those things coming into play. But it does take time, and you got to be patient. But again, it'd be fun to be able to kind of fast forward a little bit. But I guess you got to just learn to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, yeah, learn to enjoy the ride, because it all goes by fast, and hindsight is it probably goes by a little faster than you realize.
Yes, it does. So.
Good. Well, knowing that this show, right, is targeted towards people that might be interested in maybe purchasing a business or in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest tips for somebody that's kind of running a business, thinking about owning a business, you know, get ready to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable at times, learning new things, and failing. Hopefully the failures aren't too big, but ultimately I think you learn a lot more from your failures than you really do from your successes. And so again, hopefully you're granted quite a few successes before you have to hit your first road bump. But I can tell you, you will learn a lot more from those road bumps. And then also really having a good clarity of what your goals and visions are. I mentioned earlier this idea of really kind of honing in on what you truly believe that you can be the best at. And I think that that's a really important way to kind of help grow and align your business is really understanding what are you truly good at, what are you not good at, surrounding yourself with good people to kind of help fill in those gaps, but really kind of pointing your company in a direction that allows you to truly differentiate yourself from competition and be the best at something. So.
That's great. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today, Mike. It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.